you never know how sisters are. You always hope for the best, but for all I knew, you guys hated each other. So
yeah. We do have some, like we've had twin friends that don't get along, and we're like, how does that happen? Like, we have no idea. Luckily, we do most of the time. 90%
well, you guys, go ahead.
of the time, we do.
Yeah. You guys are not identical twins. You're fraternal twins, right?
That's correct, yeah.
Yeah. And I think that makes it easier. Sometimes maybe.
I think it's easier to like for us to have our own identity because we're not identical. So
yeah. Well, anyway, thanks for doing this. You guys are too young to be on Facebook yet, so you probably have no idea what Nova Legends is. But during the lockdown, we started a Facebook group just to put old high school pictures up from the northern region and celebrate the heroes, the great players, great coaches, the great games, great rivalries. And we've created this incredible network of ex-players and maybe fans as well, but powerful coaches like Coach Priester and Coach Thompson and all these the great characters that kind of made up our culture and all the great history of Northern Region. So what we're also doing is we're also talking to some of the stars of the game, and you guys' resume is unbelievable. I mean, I went to Robinson. I was class of '84, very mediocre player, but my sister, she was 2 years older. She was an all-Met. She was definitely the talent of the house. And then I coached, and I coached Summer League for Robinson, Marshall, and also AAU for many years. And then I officiated for like 20 years as well. I gave that up around 2000, became disillusioned with it. I gave it up on 2006. So I and my kids don't play basketball. So after 2008 or so, my knowledge of the game ends. I don't really know what happened afterwards, especially in Northern Region high school basketball. And but with this group, I started to reconnect with some of the people I played against and some of the older stars like Grant Hill and Tommy Amaker and so many great players. Kathy Grimes, who you guys may not know about, she was amazing when I was in high school. But when I read about you guys, and I've talked to your dad a lot, he's quite a character. I really enjoyed talking to him. I just couldn't believe. Your resume. You guys, alone, you guys would have been, what's 2 of the greatest players in the history of the region. But as twins, arguably probably the best set of twins we've ever had. So I was excited to talk to you guys and just kind of maybe learn your secret. And I also understand your brother was a great athlete. He was a football player at Temple, and not just a player, he was a starting quarterback at Temple. So whatever was happening in the Coyer household, it was producing some powerhouses.
Yeah. No, yeah, our dad, I'm sure he did. I'm sure he updated you. He's very animated, and obviously, he loves the Northern Region. He loves high school sports, and obviously he loves us. So I'm glad you were able to get in touch with him.
Yeah. Like he got in touch with us. He was great.
It sounds like him.
Yeah, no, it's great. He's been awesome to get to know. So, are you guys very different people athletically and personality wise? Because again, I never saw you guys play, so maybe we could just start there. Just generally, how you guys are similar and how you guys are different.
Sure. So it's funny. So as people, like personality wise, we are very similar in a lot of ways. Like obviously we were raised in the same household, so we have all the same core values, but I think that our personalities are actually quite different. We have like the same sense of humor and things like that, but at least growing up when we were younger, Caroline was definitely more independent than I was, and I was more of like the follower. And I think that also translated into our game athletically. Caroline was, the point guard. When you needed someone to score a basket, like you were getting the ball to Caroline. Like she was definitely the more like showy, flashy, like obviously a very good player. Whereas I was more like behind the scenes, focused heavily on defense, like doing the little things to help the team. And I think that's something that showed in our personalities. As we've gotten older, we've like developed, I think that's, I don't want to say switched, but I think that we, I drew confidence from different things at a younger age. And I think that as we've gotten older, it's definitely evened out more. If anything, I think that, I've probably been like this, whereas Kath has kind of like gone like, you know what I mean? And I think that one thing that Priester used to say about us, our high school coach, he would call us leather and lace. And I think that's like a good indication of our play styles, but also as people, Kath's like
extremely hardworking, you know, nitty gritty, always like on the court, like she said, defense, rebounding. And I was like the lace, like the delicate flower that just like looked good on the surface. And I just made sure things got done and everything looked good.
Was it hard as you're getting started in sports? If one person would have a really good game and the other person wouldn't play so well, would it take some of the fun out of it? Or would it make the person who maybe didn't play so well more competitive, maybe even work harder?
So when we were very young, I actually was not very good at sports in general. I was not a competitive person, and I didn't really like have that gumption, I guess. And Caroline had it from a very young age. She like followed everything our brother did. And so when we were younger, Caroline made the travel team and I didn't make it. And so that like really sparked me. And I mean, I think as we've gotten older.
Yeah, it's funny you say that. You know, I don't have these like distinct memories of, you know, us performing at different levels. Like I knew that occurred. Even recently, I was home with my parents and we were talking around the dinner table and my dad was talking about your brother and sister, they really struggled from a young age. You know, your brother couldn't walk and chew gum when he was like, you know, like 6 or 7, and we were really worried about him. And what they said, they were like, you know, you were much more natural and you came right out, you know, dribbling the ball, kicking the ball around. Like, I don't have those memories. I have memories of me and my siblings being out in, you know, the front, you know, street, playing basketball. You know, we played with the neighbors, things like that. But I do think that it probably was a driving force and motivated him and her to be much more, I'd say, hardworking. You know, I don't want to knock myself. Obviously, we all worked hard, but like they're much more, you know, even now in our day, it's like they work really, really hard. They value that. And it's not that I don't, but I think that from a younger age, I wasn't cognizant of that difference. And, you know, maybe it came a little bit more easily to me.
I think that younger in terms of like, if someone was playing well and the other one wasn't, I don't think that necessarily affected us too much. But I will say in college, you know, as we got older, especially because, you know, Caroline and I, we were fortunate, we saw a lot of playing time. So if one of us wasn't doing well, then the team probably wasn't doing well. And because Caroline, you know, she was our best player. She was on, you know, the US Pan American team. Like there was no questioning who our best player was. And I think that a lot of pressure fell on her from our coaches. And if Caroline didn't have a good game, even if the team won or even if we lost, you know, our coach would come down really heavy on Caroline because, you know, she was our leader, she was our best player. And I wouldn't necessarily I would feel like angry that my coach was getting mad at Caroline, like something like that, where I like wanted to like stand up and like, oh, like, no, stop yelling at her. She's our best player and she's tries so hard. But in that respect, yeah, it's had an impact.
And you think you both would have been basketball players if you guys weren't twins?
You know what's funny? No one's ever really asked us that. Like, you know, if we think that being a twin has made us better, more competitive. Like we've had a million questions about being twins, and that's like actually the first time we've ever gotten that one. I do feel like growing up as a twin, everyone always says, what's it like being a twin? Well, I don't know. What's it like not being a twin? You know, I've only ever been a twin, but I do think like after, you know, 27 years of reflection, there is this ingrained competitiveness. You know, you're constantly, no matter whether you like it or not, you're going to be compared to the other person. And I think that we've taken that and kind of run with it in everything in our lives, both athletically and personally. And at times it's been detrimental, you know, where you're constantly comparing yourself. But with that being said, I do think that it's made us more successful. And I think that we probably would have played sports regardless, just in the environment we grew up in, not just with our family, but also our friends and things like that. But I do think the fact that both of us picked it up and enjoyed it probably helped that, you know, for instance, I picked it up and I was maybe a little bit better when we were younger. I think that gave Kath the drive to continue to try and work at it.
Yeah, I would say if Caroline hadn't been as good as she was at a young age, I probably would not have. I'm a very competitive person naturally. I didn't necessarily translate that into athletics until, you know, I saw Caroline doing better than I was. And I think that unless Caroline had kind of like set that precedent, I don't know that I necessarily would have been as invested in basketball. I think that I loved playing. We both played soccer. We were both successful soccer players, but I think I probably would have stayed more in like the soccer area because it's something I was better at earlier. But having Caroline to like give me that drive, like, and seeing that she was successful at basketball, that definitely pushed me. And I think if we were not twins or we hadn't grown up playing together, that I probably would not have had that.
And your dad was a great athlete because he played at Fairfax. Did your mother play sports as well?
She did. She played high school basketball. It's funny. They went to high school together at Fairfax, and my dad tells stories. It's funny, how the game has come. You say you played high school basketball in the I don't want to age her. How old is she? Early 1970s. I don't know.
Be careful.
I think a lot of people's initial reaction is, did they have, women's basketball back then? And they did. But my dad, the stories he tells, he's like, I was the only one in the gym. I don't know if her mom even knew she played basketball. There weren't like these groups of parents and fans. He was like, I would go to the games and sit there, and it was kind of hard to watch sometimes, but it was, the game's come a long way. So.
Yeah. Even more than you guys may even realize, Northern Virginia basketball, the girls were always great. They were so far ahead of the rest of the country, or at least amongst the best areas in soccer and basketball. And so like in the late 70s, they first started having a state tournament. So the girls didn't even have a state tournament until 1976, I believe. And then they started having state. And then only like 2 regions sent teams. Well, my sister played state. There's only 3 regions that actually sent teams to state that year. One of them, I think the Central region, played in the fall or something. So it's just fascinating. Not long ago, only a generation or 2 ago, girls basketball wasn't that serious. And it's just amazing how far it's gone. I mean, the girls game, the way Coach Priester and Coach Deegan, Coach Gibson, the professionalism of the coaches and the players now, it's just unbelievable. You wouldn't believe the environment your mother had to come up in if she wanted to play basketball seriously.
Yeah, it's funny, even since we've been in high school, or even since we've been in college, and that was only 5 years ago, like the game and the coverage of the game has grown so much. I think largely due to like social media and the generation that's coming up through it are so empowered, and that's a really good thing for the game. And even you see like just all the backlash on the NCAA women's tournament this year, with the unequal facilities and things like that with the men's tournament. Those are things that I don't even think we were aware, I think, of when we were going through school, but it was kind of like, oh, this is what it is. It is what we're just playing, we're having fun. I think that this new generation of players coming up, they're so empowered and passionate, and they are drawing attention to these things, and it's so important. And so even just since we've been in school, like seeing some of the growth that's occurred and the interest that people have taken, both in women's, I think a lot of it starts with like the U.S. women's national team and that stuff, all from last year, the year before. So it's been cool.
Yeah. So who are you guys' role models, or who did you guys try to play like when you're coming up? Did you have people that you played like in particular, or you just the game just kind of came natural? At least to Caroline, I know it did.
I think we definitely had role models. I mean, we grew up going to Chantilly games because we lived around the corner from Chantilly, and there's a girl named Elena Kashansky there.
Yeah.
Very, very good player. I don't even know what ended up happening to her, but we used to go, and my dad would say, all right, now watch Elena. And we would watch her, and it was so much fun. And then as we got a little bit older, we started, I think we were in middle school at this point, and we started going to watch Jasmine Thomas play. And obviously, being an Oakton Cougar and just knowing that we were going to be going there, like that was like, we idolized her, how she carried herself. My dad would say, okay, now watch her even, in groups of people, or in, when she's being interviewed, she's very respectful. Make sure you're always like, trying to be like that. And you're always respectful of the referees, everything. Like you'll never see her be disrespectful or mouth off or something like that. And that was true. And that was something that we held on to. But even over and above that, I remember, our AAU program, we'd have these clinics where, the Georgetown women's team came, and we were like, I remember specifically they brought in one of those media guides. I don't think they even have those like printed anymore, but it was like a thick book of all the players and their backgrounds. And I remember they came like 1 or 2 times, and I memorized that media guide. I was like, these girls are so cool. Look at them. And years later, this is like a really funny random story. Our director of ops at Villanova she was in the media guide, and she was like our junior year, and she was hired as the director of ops. And I'm like, Mimi Riley, how do I know that? And I'm like, oh my God, she was in the Georgetown media guide, from when we were like 7 years old, obsessed with, these college players. So it's just funny. I mean, you don't think about it when you do get older and you're playing in front of these girls, but like even when we were younger, you just loved like idolizing those girls.
Yeah. Catherine, do you want to add that or?
I think she's done that.
Okay. So who did you play AAU for? Who was your coach and what organization did you play? At a younger age, at least.
So we played for the Potomac Valley Vogues. Excuse me. When we were younger, we had a whole slew of coaches, honestly, that really laid the foundation for us.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say Jerry Bruin was our first coach, and he was like the gold standard of like foundations. There was the 10 commandments of like, shooting right-handed, left-hand layups and, things like that. But then even from there, we played several years for Jeff Benjamin, who was incredible. He's now an assistant over at PVI with Scott Allen. And then, we played several years actually for former Georgetown players. Then, which kind of came full circle, but always for the Vogues. Sorry.
No, yeah. And then as we got older, like throughout high school, Coach Priester was also our AAU coach. So we had him year round.
Yeah. All right. Before I forget, Alina just had her third baby. She married Jeremiah Andrews, who also played for Chantilly. I think maybe the same year. I coached him in AAU, and I believe Alina teaches at Chantilly High School now. So
no way.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. And I didn't know her until we started this group, and she's been a member, and they just posted photos, and I'm in touch with almost all my old AAU players, at least certain teams that we really, clicked with. And I hadn't talked to her husband in a long time because he's in the military, or he's one of these anti-Facebook guys. So he's probably one of the only guys I hadn't been in contact with. And we recently all three of us have been in contact. So it's been really cool.
That's so awesome.
Yeah, it's great. So anyway, did you guys consider going to private school, or did you always want to go to Oakton?
So we did for a bit. Scott Allen, who is the coach at Paul VI, I guess it's not private school, it's Catholic school. I don't know. They all run together.
Same.
Yeah, same. But he, we grew up and we knew him really, really well. We still to this day, adore him and all his whole staff. Like we said, we played for Jeff Benjamin for years, and he's an assistant there. And I think that probably for like a very split second, we were like, maybe, because, we know that, especially on the men's side, a lot of players, like the most elite players, go play for private and Catholic schools. But on the women's side or the girls' side, it was really, that wasn't really a trend yet. Like, you did see some of that, but for the most part, especially if you lived in an area where you had a great public school program like we did with Coach Priester, it wasn't really something that we considered for that long ago.
Right. So there was no like big recruiting wars going on for you guys as you guys went into high school, because you hear legend in girls games. You got players all over the place, and they always end up at 4 or 5 schools. So no one was trying to give you guys a free house, 8-bedroom house somewhere. I guess.
I mean, for a second, like Thomas Jefferson had made comments, but we were like, no, we're not that caliber of student to go to Thomas Jefferson. But we also I think that we were able to fall back. Like we saw Jasmine Thomas come up through Oakton and be an All-American, go to Duke, become an All-American at Duke. And so for us, I feel like we knew that we would also get a very strong basketball experience at Oakton and have an opportunity to be exposed to colleges and things like that. So I don't think that we saw it as like a necessity.
Right.
So, like we were still kids, right? Like all of our friends were going to Oakton. Like that wasn't, I think that kids these days are forced to make these decisions at age like 14, like, okay, do you want to go to this new school, make all new friends, for the sake of your basketball career? And a lot of times they do, but I don't know if that was something that we were really considering. We really loved our friends.
And so you started Oakton, and did you guys play varsity right away? Both of you guys?
We did.
Oh, okay. And so did they have a good team? Like the year before you guys got there, what did the team look like?
The year before we got there, I actually don't remember.
Yeah, we had a good team though.
Our freshman year, we went to the state finals. We had a perfect record, and then we lost in the state finals to Princess Anne.
Wow.
And
So,
then go ahead.
no, I was gonna say, so you guys, you guys fully developed? I mean, obviously you became Division I players. Were you guys already at that level as freshmen, or did you have a nice supporting staff to help as well?
We had great teams like our entire time. We were fortunate that we had great coaching. We had great teammates who were great friends. It was never a situation where it was just like us and, the team and we just loved the team. Like we had, Zora Stevenson who ended up playing at Elon. We had a couple other, Danielle Davis who ended up playing Division I basketball. I think she ended up transferring. Elizabeth Manor played at Stony Brook. We had great players the entire time we were there.
Right. So the first year you get all the way down to state undefeated. You don't lose no Christmas, nothing. Okay, and you lose to Princess Anne. Were they highly rated? Did you guys go into the game? Okay.
Yeah. So the schools down like at the beach, they just do things a little bit differently. It's more that is more of an area where like you go to a school specifically for basketball. And Princess Anne, I mean, all 4 years we were in high school was a very, very strong team. And our sophomore year, we actually lost to them in the state semifinals.
Yes.
Our junior year, we ended up not making it to the state tournament. But then our senior year, we beat them in the state finals. So Princess Anne was always like our big.
In the state. And they had amazing, incredible players. Elizabeth Williams, who now plays, I don't know what team she plays for.
But she went to Duke.
Yeah, she's like 7.
Right.
Very tall.
So Caroline, you were the point guard all 4 years, and Katherine, you were the shooting guard or small forward all 4 years, or
shooting guard.
Oh, okay. And so later on, your junior year, what happened your junior year? So you got upset in the tournament?
We did.
Yeah.
Oh, that one still stings.
It does. No, it's funny because you talk about Gibson, Deegan, and all those teams. Those are all teams that we were well aware. They have such a rich tradition of like coaching and coaches that have been, in the northern region for so long. And Gibson had a couple like really, really great players, April Robinson, Logan Battle, and I think all 4, they were our year. So we knew that all 4 years were going to be a battle anytime we met them. We were in different districts and they would always blow through their district. We'd always blow through our district. And it was always going to be one of these, like, are we going to meet them? I think every year we met them in the final. And in the final,
both go.
Yeah, we both go. So then the junior year we met them in the semi and they beat us. It was
rough. It was a rough game. She got in foul trouble early. I had a really bad ankle sprain and I was not 100%. And it was a battle.
It was a battle.
They got the best that day.
They did, yeah.
But had you played them in the regular season that year or tournament that year?
No, so we never actually played them until region playoffs came.
But you knew everybody on the team because of AAU and stuff, right? So they were.
Yeah. We grew up playing with and against, those girls. So we knew what we were getting ourselves into. Yeah. And Deegan or Priester and Gibson were like, both some of the old heads and, the northern region. So
It's always a battle.
Yeah.
Do they get along, Priester and Gibson?
As far as we know, I think I think there's a mutual respect there that exists amongst all those coaches, Deegan, Dade over at Robinson. So
definitely.
Yeah, I asked.
But it's all, with good intention. I don't think there's any malice or anything there.
I sent Coach Priester and Coach Gibson a joint message asking if they want to do a podcast together. Neither one of them responded. Okay. So,
I don't think they like go grab a beer at the bar together or anything.
Yeah. But it's Zoom. They don't have to see, they're far away, but they didn't even, and both of them responded to me of other requests independently, but I put them on a joint one and I just never heard back. So Coach Priester, Coach Gibson, if you're out there, let's do this.
That's hilarious.
So the junior year you guys lost, do you feel that team was any better, any worse than the other 3 years and just you had a bad game, foul trouble? Or do you feel like maybe that team maybe not as good as the other years?
I think if anything, that was our best team.
Yeah. I mean, our entire starting 5 went D1. And even like, 6-man, the girls who were coming off the bench were also like very strong players.
I think it was just a situation where, they probably executed their game plan a little bit better than us. We had some foul trouble. They were hitting when we weren't. And, they had like 3 key players and we had, 5, and their 3 played better than our 5. That's what ended up happening. So.
Yeah. Did you guys feel it was further pressure that you guys won a lot of games so easy? So when you get these close games, you hadn't been there a lot. Like, for example, at Villanova, I'm sure the games were tough all the time. So it kind of hardens you to those game situations and you're able to deal with them. In girls basketball, especially, it's always been like that. You always have the haves and the have-nots. And I think there's probably a sense that if it's too easy, when it gets hard, maybe you're not necessarily 100% ready for that situation as a team.
Yeah, I think that actually is something that really helped us actually our senior year, because we honestly, going into our senior year, we had just lost, Zora Stevenson, Danny Davis, lost a bunch of girls who were really talented. And so going into our senior season, we were like, listen, we don't know what to expect this year. We don't know how far we're going to make it in the playoffs, if we'll even make it to the state tournament. But we did play in a tip-off tournament or a Christmas tournament or something where we had a couple close games against some DC area schools. And we were like, oh, this is the beginning of our season. We're seeing tough competition. What's going on? But I think that actually helped us moving forward throughout the season because, we were actually faced with some tougher games and tougher challenges because we didn't have on paper as strong of a resume on the bench and everything as we had the year before.
Yeah.
So I'm sorry, Caroline, were you going to say something? Or?
I was just agreeing.
Okay. So you had 5 Division I players your junior year. And I assume some of them graduated that year. Who replaced them and what level were they?
We had we had a big group of seniors our senior year. Our grade, we had a lot of really, girls that we grew up playing with and against that filled those roles very, very well. They were, even though we had lost, a couple great girls from the class previously, because they were upperclassmen, they were able to step in, people like Meredith Burrows, Nestle Ozcan, I'm trying to think. Helen Roberts. We also had a great freshman, Carly Cronin. She ended up going and playing lacrosse at Ohio State and then walked onto their basketball team. They had a great run there the last few years. So we had people that stepped into those roles that pretty seamlessly, and they weren't afraid. So that was good.
Yeah.
And you may have already said this, Catherine, but you guys weren't undefeated that year, right? You guys lost the early game, right?
Our senior season, we were undefeated.
Oh, you're undefeated also?
Yeah, but we had faced a couple close games.
Right. Okay. So you get to the regional title. Is West Springfield in the final? In this time?
It was, yeah. It was West Springfield again, and it was one of those it was our senior year. It was their senior year, and we had played each other the last 3 years. They beat us the year before. I don't know. I feel like I probably had never been more nervous for a game than that one.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah, I remember I balled out that game randomly. I just randomly had the best game ever. And I was so relieved because that was, in some ways that game was more stressful going into it than the actual state championship game.
Yeah, just because we knew the girls, we knew the coach. It was just one of those where everyone going in knew it was going to be a battle.
Right. And Catherine, you were MVP of the tournament, right? That year, right? I believe you were MVP. Because I looked at your awards when I was preparing for this, and you guys got so many rewards, and then they're always high, but then sometimes it changes a little bit. But I remember Catherine being MVP of a regional tournament, so I figured since you said you balled out, that must have been that game. But
yeah, I may have been. I don't know. I know we grew up in a household where we didn't place a lot of emphasis on individual awards. They were great when you got them, but don't hang your hat on that stuff. So maybe I got it. I don't know.
No, I think I do remember. I remember you getting it. It was really, really exciting because it was one of those where people
expected you to get it probably.
Yeah, everyone always expected me to be score the most or whatever, and I was always extremely excited when Kath would play better.
So I wrote this article story for the group it's called The End of the Northern Region. And I just randomly had your guys' picture, you two and a few other your teammates, after that game, and you guys are crying, or not crying, but you're very happy.
Yeah.
And it's just so funny. I had no idea. Then Coach Priester messaged me and said, you know, you just happened to pick that was like the last game of the Northern Region before they broke it up into different classifications and stuff. So the timing couldn't have been better. But okay, so let's go to state. So where was the state the year that you guys won it? Where did they have it?
The first round was always like at a home location, and then from there, I think it was the semi and final was at VCU. So that was when I don't think they still play it there. I could be wrong, but yeah, it was at VCU.
Okay, and then you played Princess Anne in the semis or in the finals?
The final. In the semi, we played. What was the? No, it was. I remember the name of the girl. I think the girl's name was Adrienne Motley, the girl on the other team, and she was extremely good. I forget where she ended up going. She was very, very good, and I think we beat them by like 1.
Yeah, and they got a good shot off at the buzzer too.
Oh, I remember because I was guarding her, and it was like 2 threes, and she got it off, and I just saw my hand was like this. I saw my life.
Yeah, that was in some ways that was really good.
So was that one of the greatest moments of your life when you won the state championship? Because you tried so hard to do that?
Yeah, I mean, it sounds silly saying that, like after playing through college, but it's still, when I look back on it, I'm like, I mean, everything even just leading up to that game. So that day, you know, it was at VCU, and for whatever reason, they had sold tickets, like the tickets for the men's championship and the women's championship were like the same bunch of tickets. And whoever, you know, the guys, whatever the boys teams were that were playing, they had bought almost all the tickets. So for us and our fans, like we didn't have any tickets to buy. So the whole time it was like, how are our parents going to go to this game? You know, there was all these like fan buses and stuff for the school, like students that wanted to go. And it was just like, how are the people that we even like want to be there going to be there? And I remember being, you know, irrationally stressed out about it the whole day. And then somehow it all pulled through, and we're warming up on court, and like these, you know, waves of fans are coming in. They're like, oh my God, they figured it out. And then being able to win that championship game against the end of all teams was just like a full circle moment for us.
Yeah, I feel like it was like the pinnacle of like, you know, it was 3rd time's a charm. But also over and above that, like I think we all knew that Priester, you know, he was this amazing, like legendary coach. He'd never won a state championship. And
oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, for years it was, you know, he's going to retire after Jasmine. He's going to retire after, you know, Zora. And then he's going to retire after, you know, he's going to retire like 20 times. So we didn't really, you know, no one knew how many more chances he had at a state title. And I think that to win then, like, it was almost all, like, I feel like for him, all of our excitement. And we knew that it was just, he needed to get at least one before he retired.
Yeah, we were all crying.
I know we were.
We're not really that emotional, like individuals. You're not going to catch me crying on the court.
Yeah.
We were all crying, and it was a lot.
Yeah, my sister's team had won the state championship, and so I had went to the state every year, and I started going because she was playing, and then I kept going. Believe my teams never got even close. We never even got out of districts, but I knew what that experience was like just to watch it, not to win it, and it's just amazing. The state tournament. I think they've done a lot to cheapen the state tournament here, unfortunately. They ran the tournament in a different way years ago, and it's struggled now. It's mostly an event for only people that have teams in the event. Like you go to high school there, your kids are there. It used to be, it had more gravitas with the whole, you know, all basketball fans in the state. It's just not like that because the ticket thing you're talking about, I mean, that should never even be an issue at a game, worried about whether your parents can go to an event. I mean, it's just ridiculous.
Yeah, I completely agree. I feel like even since we've been there, like, you know, with them redistricting and redoing all the, you know, whatever, it's sad. Even I remember we used to go to that gym at Robinson for regionals, and it was filled to the brim. And this is high school girls basketball. Obviously the guys' games were always packed, but you know, we would go there and it was just like an environment of like
the fan sections would be yelling at each other during the game. It was so cool.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, truthfully, we're pretty far removed from what I understand from my dad, who does go to a lot of these games. It's just not the same, it makes me sad for the kids these days.
Yeah, they have all these classifications now, so you have more champions, and they divide it up, and so the rivalries are all gone. I mean, you know, Princess Anne was still there, but you never know. Maybe next year they'll put them in a different classification, and then it's you don't even face the best teams anymore. And then one thing they did a long time ago, this was crazy. So you used to go to state tournament and you have the girls Final Four, and then maybe you have the single A, the small boys schools Final Four, double A, and so you had the Final Fours in a row, and they'd be at different times, so you can see all of them. Well, one day someone had this great idea. Let's mix it up, so it's always girl, boy, girl, boy, girl, boy. Sounds great. So everyone gets. What that does is, so say you came down to watch the girls semifinals. Well, you want to watch the Final Four. You may not want to wait and come back that night and watch the girls' game later on. Say you're recruiting girls. You want to come to watch the game and watch all the girls at that game. You don't want to stay all day. So they kept making these changes, and you kept wondering who is doing this. But it just. But anyway, I digress. So had you guys already signed with Villanova when you won the state championship, or was that something that happened later on?
Yeah, so I want to say we committed to Villanova end of our junior year, maybe.
Yeah, I think.
Like spring of our junior year. And then
it was before that AAU season, I know that.
Yeah. So we knew we were going to Villanova. And I think Coach Heather was actually at the game.
Yeah, somebody was.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think at that point we had all the seniors of the different teams all committed. So
did you guys ever consider going to different schools?
Like a minute.
Yeah, we did. It was a tough thing because, obviously, Kath was thinking about playing soccer. So for a while, it was like, well, maybe she can play soccer, I can play basketball at the same school. But then that just didn't feel quite right. It was like, well, we can't not be on the same team doing the same thing. I don't know. And then, a women's basketball roster in college has 15 scholarships. So that means on any given year, you might have like 3 or 4 available. So for us to come in the same year, similar positions, and say we're a package deal, a lot of schools either don't have that or they are turned off by that, or whatever, they might be interested in one versus the other. So it was a decision we made early on and we stuck with, and it ended up working out for us. And we decided early on that schools that were not going to value both of us for each of our individual strengths weren't going to be considered. And I don't think we regret it for even a second.
No, and I also think before I had, Caroline had fully decided, she also could have played college or soccer in college as well. But she had fully decided she wanted to play basketball, and I was still on the fence. So we would visit schools, and then we'd go see the soccer program after we visited the basketball program. And then I think just as we were visiting more and more schools, we also realized all the things that we each wanted as individuals in a school were the same things. So it made choosing to go to a school together a lot easier.
Okay, but before we get back to Philadelphia and Villanova, did you guys do well in high school soccer? Did Oakton win some big games there as well? Or?
We did well. I mean, the high school soccer, it was extremely competitive. I mean, there was really, really incredible players across the board, across the northern region. I think that, our freshman year, we made states. The first round, we got knocked out, but we had a good team there. I think that the past few years, from what I recall, Oakton girls soccer has been incredible. So we did not, not as good maybe as the last few years, but we did. We had, I think it was 9 freshmen make varsity our freshman year, and that for pretty much that whole crew stayed through the whole way through, and a lot of them ended up playing Division I soccer.
Well, what if an amazing soccer program like UCLA would offer you guys soccer ride? Would that even have been considered? Were you guys always going to go play basketball at the next level?
So I think that just because I consider soccer longer than care. Also, soccer recruiting, I would say as a whole happens a year later than basketball does. Basketball recruiting happens a lot earlier. So we were already knee deep in the basketball recruiting scene when soccer schools really started coming to us. And then I think Caroline knew right away she really didn't want to play soccer. I did entertain some soccer school and some very good schools, but I think that nothing that any school could have offered me in terms of soccer would have beat playing basketball with my sister in college.
Yeah,
oh, that's great.
Also, at that point, we were very cognizant of the fact that college basketball was fully funded. I don't think it was something our parents never were you need to keep in mind, we're gonna if you play soccer, we're gonna have to pay for it. It was just something that I think, luckily, knew and were aware of. And again, I don't think that if we loved soccer, it would have kept us from playing soccer, knowing that we would have had to pay it part of our way through school. But it was definitely an added perk that we knew that no matter where we were being recruited basketball wise, like it was going to be fully paid for. Whereas like, a great soccer school might come to us and say, oh, we're going to give you X%. And that's a lot of money. We knew there was 2 of us and we knew our parents would figure it out. But it was like, if some private school from Michigan or something comes and says, oh, you can come play here. It's like.
Also, I think that we played for a very, very successful club team. And we also played for a very successful basketball team. So we were able to see kind of like the pinnacle of each sport and like what that had to offer. And I think just for like a sports culture point of view, like soccer culture and basketball culture are 2 very different things. And I think that we didn't vibe as much with soccer culture as much as we did with basketball culture. And I think that also definitely had a part in like choosing to play basketball.
What club team did you guys play for in soccer?
So it was the Chantilly Burn.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I mean, we didn't play for like an outstanding soccer club or anything, but our team was just
very good. This was right at the very beginning of when club soccer started turning into like, and I don't even know the ins and outs, so I apologize for if I'm misspeaking, but it became very like, everything was fully funded and like sponsored, and you had to go to these like specific like elite programs.
It became very political.
Yeah, well, in our program, it was like the same girls we've been playing with since we were 8, and we ended up just actually being a great team. And that, I think probably in the next like 2 to 3 years after that, that just wasn't something that you found anymore. Teams that stuck together like that.
Yeah. Well, just guessing. I don't even know. I'm going to guess Katherine is a defensive midfielder, and Caroline is either attacking mid or a wing player.
That's actually
a pretty good assessment.
Very, very good. Yeah. Cap was a center back.
Oh,
So
yeah.
And I was a center midfielder, but I would play a lot, especially like as we got into like a higher level, and I wasn't like as skilled. I wasn't spending as much time with my foot skills. I played a lot of like right wing, where it's just like speed, just running up and down the flank.
Yeah. Do you think playing both sports made you better in both, or do you think you could have been better at either sport if you would have specialized? Because I know there's a big debate, like in Iceland, they had an incredible run at soccer, and how can this country, population of 300,000, beat all the size of Alexandria or Arlington together, can beat all these European teams in soccer? And they had this huge plan to do this. One of the things they do is they make all their kids cross-trained. They play 4 sports or 3 sports, and they don't specialize until they're 12. And as you guys know, in America, it's going the other way around. More kids are specializing earlier than ever now, because parents are doing personal training, and we're just getting so serious. Like my son is at a personal trainer. He's had a personal trainer since he was like 8 years old, because everyone's got a guy. You got to try to get an advantage. So what do you guys think? You guys think it made you guys better athletes to do both, or you think you could have been better if you would have chosen?
Oh, I definitely think that. And it makes me sad now hearing about kids that are forced to choose, or their coaches say, well, you can't play for this program, you're going to do this. Like, I think we both are in agreement that if we did not have like soccer and basketball as an outlet, it was always fresh. It was always like, oh, we're going to go play with our friends, play basketball, or we're going to go, we haven't played soccer in a while, we're going to go do that. Like, there was never this burnout that was experienced that I think it happens now these days, especially when you throw in things like, take just like your normal team and practices and stuff out of it. You throw in like the individual sessions and the training, and it gets to the point where you're like, your whole life is, revolved around it. And especially from a young age, I don't know how kids do it.
Yeah, I was just having this conversation with my boyfriend days ago too. And I think that when you force a child who barely even knows who they want to be or who they are, when you force a child to pick one sport, I think that besides the fact that people just burn out, I think it just puts an immense amount of pressure on that kid to like have to be the best at that thing that they chose at age 10, right? Like, and I was probably 16 when I figured out what sport I wanted to play.
Yeah.
Like if I had made that decision at 11 or 12, I think I probably would have always questioned whether I made the right choice, and I probably would have burned out.
I also don't know if, and I could be wrong on this, I feel like people embrace it more with men. a young boy wants to play football and basketball, great, go ahead. Like, I'm sure there is a little bit of this, like, oh, if you play football, you might get hurt or whatever, but I feel like with a female, it's like, well, you can't do both. You see, what's his, oh my God, the fact I can't remember his name, hit the buzzer beater in the NCAA tournament. And this year.
And he ran off. Yeah.
He ran off and he was an incredible high school football player. Yeah. And it's like, that's the type of stuff you want to see. And then I'm sure that experience made him an incredible basketball player as well. And I do think that, at least from our experience, like, we even, when we were playing, and it was much more accepted back then, but we would get a lot of pressure from our club soccer team. You can't be playing this, you have to be here, you have to, and I just think that for as long as possible, until kids are ready to pick one and they decide like, oh, I just don't like playing this sport anymore, I think they should try their best to just continue balancing both.
Right.
We're all for it.
So Villanova, so who was the coach at Villanova? Is it the same coach all 4 years and the same coach that recruited you guys?
So his name's Harry Peretta. He was the coach there for 40 years, recently retired since we graduated, but he's one of these like fixtures of the university, very similar to like a Priester, where you don't get Villanova basketball without Harry Peretta. And he is like as native Philadelphia as it gets, like a hilarious personality, but one of those people that really, really just creates a good relationship with his players and really loves and cares about his players. I think that's what drew us to the program. He created this like familial type bond with his players where everybody is like a family versus, college basketball, you don't always get that. And we see a lot of kids these days, they want to go to this hot program because, or they want to go to this school or whatever, and they don't look at those kinds of dynamics. And that was something that drew us definitely to the program. He was very focused on making sure that academically we were focused, that we had a good balance with our social life. Like he wanted to make sure we had a very well-rounded experience.
So how was the adjustment? So you're a freshman now, and you guys are, I'd imagine college basketball is a little bit of an adjustment. Did you guys start right away? How did it feel playing in the Big East after playing at a pretty high level high school conference in high school?
The Big East, at least our freshman year, was no joke. I mean, we had UConn, Notre Dame, Louisville, USF, like all these. It was arguably the best conference in women's basketball, or like the toughest conference in women's basketball. And it doesn't matter how good you are in high school, like there's a learning curve there. I redshirted my freshman year. We had 5 seniors on the team when we were freshmen, and a lot of them were guards. And I knew that I probably wasn't going to get a lot of playing time. Caroline stepped in right away and made a big impact. She didn't start, but she got a lot of minutes, and she did make a very, very big impact right away.
Yeah, it was definitely challenging though. I think we had a great group of upperclassmen who embraced us and wanted to bring us up to speed like immediately versus like kind of like shying away and seeing us as threats type thing. Girls who are some of our closest friends still today, despite the age gap. But with that being said, it was definitely a challenge. I mean, just the strength of play. I mean, I remember, we had the Big East, but then there's something called the Philadelphia Big Five. I don't know if you're familiar, but it's just, top schools in Philadelphia. And I remember going into our St. Joe's game, and everyone was like, this game's going to be really, really tough. And you think, St. Joe's was pretty good that year, but, we're like, okay, we got UConn on the schedule, we got Syracuse on the schedule, we got Notre Dame on the schedule, and they're talking about St. Joe's. Like, I'm like, and then I got in that game, I think I played 3 minutes, and I was like, get me the hell out of here. This is the biggest bloodbath. And I think that anybody who grows up playing, I don't know if it's the same for guys, but like, historically, like AAU girls basketball, like you play teams from like Philadelphia, New York, it is like a different breed. They'll punch you in the face. They are as scrappy as it comes. And that was like literally what it was. It was like all of the scrappiest, most talented players from the Philadelphia AAU circuit thrown on a court together for, bragging rights for the next year. And I was like, I was not prepared for this. So you have things like that, but then you also have like, your Big East matchups where girls are just like so strong and so like, in a lot of ways scary. But it's something that you definitely grew into. I actually ended up getting injured halfway through my senior or my freshman year, and I was out for the majority of the second half. But then they burnt her red shirt, and she came in the second half, and she made an impact there. So kind of like had like halvesies that year, but.
Right. Yeah, when you talk about Philadelphia and New York that way, it reminds me, remember your travel days, the Baltimore teams, they were crazy. The play in travel soccer, they foul like crazy. Their parents are going insane on the sidelines. And I'm just like, what is going on? You guys live 40 miles from us, but you guys are just crazy.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
yeah. So anyway, so the first year you guys each play about a half season and it goes well. Did your team do pretty well the first year?
We made the tournament.
Cool.
I think we ended up finishing like fourth. No.
Yeah, we were fourth in the Big East, which in that Big East was
a huge accomplishment.
It was, I want to say it was like UConn, Notre Dame, Louisville, and then us, which we couldn't have asked for.
Yeah, and I think that I want to say that the top 6 teams in the Big East that year made them to the tournament.
Yeah.
Like it was a strong conference. So many teams got to go, but for us to finish fourth was really, really good for our team.
So your first year is over. Did you go home and work out hard, or do you just kind of relax yourself? I mean, we talk about the training that kids do to get ready for high school and stuff and get ready for college. But what did you guys do between seasons? Did you really work hard? Did you just try to, just have some fun and be like regular students, even if it's summertime?
So there really isn't like an off season in college. You have to go to summer school, at least one session of summer school. So you're on campus for at least half the summer. Most people end up going for both sessions just because summer school is fun. It's a fun time to be on campus, and it's like an easy time to be on campus. You really only get a couple weeks at the end of the season with no workouts, and you get a couple weeks at the end of the summer with no workouts. But they make sure that you're, they don't want people to go home and just get out of shape and like not be ready.
With that being said, I think that a lot of girls go home during that time and they're working out every day and they're going to their trainers and they're doing. I think we tried to detach as much as possible during that like 3 weeks at the beginning of summer and 3 weeks at the end of summer, because it's so always on. It's long season from the start of October, or really from the time you get to campus in late August, you're doing individual workouts all the way through the long season, especially that freshman year. We played through the NCAA tournament. Like, I think by the time you hit that period in May where you have a few weeks off, I just think it's important to disconnect and turn it off.
That's a lot. So how about the next year? So you guys you got a half seasons on your belt. Probably more comfortable on the court. How did your sophomore season go?
It was good. We had a really talented team, but we didn't really meet our potential. I think we lost 5 seniors.
It was a bit of a rebuilding year.
It was a bit of a rebuilding year, but I do think it was a year where we were much, like you said, much more comfortable, much more confident in ourselves and our abilities, and we were able to kind of like set the tone for our next few seasons. I want to say that was the first year of the new Big East.
It was.
So that was an adjustment. We're having to travel out to Creighton and Butler and Xavier, and playing new teams and new programs, and our programs that our coach hasn't ever played before. You know what I mean? And a lot of what happens in college is you're playing the same teams and the same programs over and over again. So you get to a point where it's like, all right, we're playing Syracuse. We know they're playing that zone, and we know that they have these plays and whatever. So when you throw new teams in the mix, everyone's learning, getting to know each other and figuring out what each team does. So it was definitely a chaotic year.
Yeah. That being said, it was cool because when you have UConn and Notre Dame in your conference, you're not going to win the conference.
Yeah.
Like, you just know you're not. And by losing, actually, a lot of those teams, that the conference became a lot more competitive. It was like, all right, who's going to win the conference this year? And like that was something that we felt like we actually had a fighting chance of like winning it.
And then your junior year, did you guys continue to get better? I know, Caroline, I think you got injured again, maybe your junior year, or
I got injured.
Okay.
I got injured. I actually think that our junior year of college was fairly similar to our junior year of high school, and that we had all the pieces. It was all there. We also had a lot of injuries. I got injured. Emily Lear, who was our starting center, was had a very bad back injury. We had a couple key players with some knee injuries. And it was one of those where we had all the pieces, but we couldn't put it together. And we ended up definitely not hitting our potential at the end of that year.
Yeah,
I agree with that.
it was a tough. I was healthy the whole year, and I remember it was just like we get on a stride and we get going, and then somebody else would fall, and it was just one of those.
Well, Caroline, you got the 6th Man of the Year award that year. So you must have had a really good team if you didn't start, right? If you were off the bench, or it's just they wanted to have a scorer to come off the bench and play.
Yeah, Harry is very like systematic in terms of his starting lineups and things like that. You're like the best 5 players aren't necessarily the ones on the court.
With that being said, we also had a senior point guard who was extremely talented.
Yes.
And when it came down to it, we were on the court usually together, kind of trading off, point guard responsibilities. But I think it just made the most sense for the team for one of us to start and one of us to come off the bench. And I think made the most. She was our senior captain. Like, of course, I was going to come off the bench.
Right. And then your senior year was your guys' best year, at least points wise. I don't remember how you guys did, but everything kind of came together your senior year.
It did and it didn't. I mean, it was another year where things occurred throughout the year. We would do really, really well, and then we'd fall. But I do think that by the end of the season, we were hitting on all cylinders, and we were going to make a postseason run. We had some really, really talented underclassmen. We had some talented upperclassmen. It was looking like we were going to be, finish in the top 1 or 2 of the Big East. And then I want to say we had just clinched the Big 5 title, and then we had just clinched like outright 2nd place in the Big East. And then I don't know, I got injured and
and we had been told, like, there's always like rumors, like, who's going to make the NCAA tournament, especially when it's getting down to like the end of the regular season. And, by all accounts, like, we were positioned to make it to the NCAA tournament. And it was something we were super excited for because we hadn't been since our freshman year. And then one practice with like 3 games left in our regular season, Caroline blows out her knee. And I mean, I think literally the whole team was crying. It was devastating.
We were all so excited. It was one of those days where especially at the end of the season, sometimes practices can get really grueling. It's really like, all right, let's get through it. But it was one of those days. It was like everyone was happy to be there. We're like, all right, we won the Big 5. Our coach was happy. He was all excited. He was like, I remember him making this comment. He was like, oh, wow, there's just everything's going right. Everything's going, something bad's going to happen. I just know it. Like, good things don't happen back to back like this. Like, something bad's going to happen. I swear to God, less than 10 minutes later, I went down. And it was so funny. You got to know him. But he was walking around. He's like, I knew it. I knew something bad was going to happen. And I'm like, can you just shut the hell up? But yeah, so then from there, we had an extremely talented freshman point guard who took over. She did incredible. I want to say she was National Freshman of the Week. The next week, she had like 40 points. It was like one of those like,
wow, that's great.
Like, completely took over and did incredible. But like,
we ended up winning the rest of our games.
But then I think in the tournament it fell apart, and then I don't know if we got snubbed in the tournament, not making it, but it was one of those where we felt like we had a good enough team, and I think that they probably felt like with the injury that maybe we weren't the same caliber, and so we ended up not making it.
They ended up we finished 2nd in the Big East, and they ended up, and this also had a lot to do with the Big East tournament. We didn't perform well in the Big East tournament, but the 1st, 3rd, and 4th place teams in the Big East ended up making it to the tournament, and we didn't. And so it definitely felt like we got snubbed in the moment. I mean, I know there's a lot that goes into those decisions, but I think that in the eyes of the committee, at least, like, not having Caroline was our best player. Like, there's no doubting that. And by not having Caroline and then also not performing well in the Big East, it was like, all right, yeah, they're a totally different team. So they don't deserve to make it. So what did you guys think about what came next? I mean, obviously your basketball career is over. I know Caroline, of course, was thinking about going, maybe keep playing, maybe going to the next level. Catherine, I'm not sure if you thought you had that on your mind or not. Yeah, so I wanted to play overseas, but not like in the capacity that Caroline did. There's a lot of programs for women's basketball players where you can go overseas and basically get your master's out of school and also play. And
Oh, that's awesome.
that's something that I wanted to do. My injury that I had junior year basically prevented me from doing that. I had a pretty bad knee injury, but it was more of like a slow burn. It wasn't like I just tore everything in my knee like Caroline did. So my junior year, I messed up my knee, but I played through it through the end of my senior year. But by the end of my senior year, I needed a pretty serious knee surgery. And that recovery ended up being a year-long recovery. So my chances of going overseas, like, so they just stopped and didn't exist. But I was able to stay on as a graduate assistant at Villanova while I was going through like my physical therapy and things like that.
Right. And then did you coach? And so you coached for a year or so? What'd you end up doing as a grad assistant? Did you become a full-time assistant as well, or did you just do it for that 1 year?
So I think that as the graduate assistant, I quickly realized that like coaching or anything like that was not for me. It was nice being able to stay on with the program and like go through my physical therapy. But I also think that when your whole life has been athletics, when that's taken away from you and you can't even play, I think that it's really easy to like question who you are as a person. I know a lot of college athletes go through that. Like if they're not playing at the next level, like playing professionally, they kind of have to take a step back and be like, who am I without basketball? Who am I without football? Who am I without whatever? That was like a big reflection year for me. And I was in this like middle point of like being on staff, but also still being best friends with the girls on the team. So I really wasn't a coach, but I also wasn't allowed to like hang out with the girls. So I like for me myself, I had to kind of like I realized that was not the path for me. But I'm very grateful. They ended up paying for the first part of my MBA program, so like I can't complain at all. But it wasn't for me long term.
And then what'd you decide to do after? You got your MBA, I guess, and then did you take a job in some kind of field?
Yeah, so I had studied real estate in college, and my MBA is with a concentration in real estate. And so I was a project manager for a national home builder for a few years. And I'm still in like the real estate industry. I work in home remodeling now.
Oh, that's awesome. So Caroline, so you first of all, you had to get your knee healthy, but you kept playing.
Well, I actually, it's funny you say that. I did not. So I eventually got surgery, which I actually postponed like a few times because that was the year that Villanova men's basketball team made their national championship run in 2016. So we were like following the team around. I remember I was supposed to have my surgery. Like it was like the day before the Final Four, and I called my dad, and he was like, "You're having surgery," and I was like, "Dad, I'm really, really sorry. We're driving to Houston and I'm postponing my surgery. I'll talk to you later. Bye." And he was like, "What the?" And I like hung up, and it ended up being like the best weekend of our lives. It's so much fun. Don't regret it for a second. But then I had surgery, and then I was actually contacted by another coach in the Big Five who got his head coaching gig at the University of Vermont. He said, "I know about obviously what happened with your injury. I want you to come on to my staff at Vermont." So I was an assistant with him for a year where I rehabbed, and I kind of got a taste of what it's like coaching. And to Cass' point, like it's one of those things where I think that when you're deciding what to do after you're done playing, a lot of people are able to channel that like energy into coaching, and it makes sense, but I just don't think it was for me. And it's hard when you're not fully removed yet to just then pivot into coaching, because it just takes a lot. Like I think people don't realize like it's special people who dedicate their life to coaching. And at least at that point, I don't know if I was like mature enough to take on that responsibility. And then from there, I was like, all right, this isn't for me. I'm not happy. And I had met somebody at my current company at the Final Four that year in 2016 who worked at CBS Sports in advertising. So I contacted him. I was like, "Hi, do you remember me? Can I have a job?" And yeah, so I've been there ever since. We since, merged and rebranded. Now it's Viacom CBS, but it's all ad sales. So it's fun.
But you still played. You tried out for the Pan American Games, or didn't you play after, or you didn't?
So that was after my junior year.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah.
Right.
That was really, really awesome though. Amazing experience. But yeah, it was before college ended.
So do you have any, plans to be in front of the camera, or you just want to be kind of doing ad sales and stuff? Because you guys both would be awesome, working in the in that field. I mean, Catherine, your personality will be great in sales too, but or management, whatever you choose to do.
I think for a little bit, when I was thinking about what I wanted to do next, I thought about maybe on camera, but
Mhm.
it's just not as glamorous, I think, as it sounds, especially when you're younger. We have some friends that do it now, and it's like, you might be in the middle of nowhere, Ohio, reporting on high school sports out there, and you're alone, and you got your camera set up, and you're trying to, work your way up. But also, I think it requires you to just have a general presence all the time. It's kind of hard to turn off. You have to kind of always, you're on social media, you're always reporting on this. You have to have your pulse on everything going on. And I think that I was like, I need to be able to turn it off. But no, I mean, I work kind of behind the scenes, selling the ads that, at least digitally, that you see on a lot of the major sporting events. So it keeps my hand a little bit in it, but without being, so involved.
Well, you guys are incredible women. I mean, you're so humble but so accomplished. I mean, your parents just did an amazing job raising you. I was teasing about your father earlier, but I have 2 daughters myself, and it's not easy raising girls. So I have so much, and I raised a fine son too. So you guys have amazing parents. When you guys think about having a family yourself, would you like to have twins? And also, what kind of sports parents are you guys going to be? I mean, things are changing so much, even probably since you guys were in high school. I mean, the kids nowadays, it's all about the highlight on Twitter. It's just, social. It's so social media. It's just crazy. So what do you guys think about yourselves as sports parents one day?
It's something that I feel like comes up a lot, actually, just how much things have changed in the age of social media, not just in the sports realm, but I think that like parents today being a parent is always a hard job, especially today in the world of social media, where, you kind of have to figure out like the right balance for your kids. And it's something that I don't know how we're going to cope with, but I do think that we'll want to try to have, at least I shouldn't say we, I think I'll try to want to have like a little bit more of an old fashioned mentality, in the sense that like, not that, I don't want my kids to be involved. I think there's a lot of good things that come out of the social media and being able to connect with people from different areas and things like that, but just trying to ground them. Because you're right, a lot of kids, it's not like, oh my God, my AAU team won this tournament. It's, oh my God, look at this highlight tape I got from the tournament that I can put on, Instagram. And a lot of recruiting is done through social media these days, so it's important. But like, I just think that so much of the fun that we had growing up stemmed from just like the time with your friends, playing in big tournaments. I think about what it meant to go to the AAU Nationals down in the Milk House in Disney, and how it meant so much to us. And I think that a lot of that has been removed, and I would hope that in some way, somehow, it'll be possible to continue to instill that in my kids one day.
Yeah, I also think it's really important that, first of all, I do not want to have twins.
Yeah.
Just the birth alone.
So I think that, people who were like around us and our family growing up, thought our dad was crazy.
Yes.
Like they thought he was that psycho basketball dad, but he really wasn't.
No,
he wasn't at all. And we always laugh about it because he's just so opposite from that, but he like gets the stigma because he pushed us hard. But his thing was, if you're going to choose to do something, you're going to do it to the best of your ability. Like you're not going to half-ass it. And that's something that he instilled in us, but he didn't force us to play basketball. He didn't force us to play soccer ever. It was, listen, you're going to do what you want to do, but if you're going to do it, like do it the right way. And I think that that's something I want to take forward with me when I, raise my kids. I'm not going to force my kids to do anything. I don't care if they want to play chess, right? Like if you're going to do something and you really want to do it, like you're going to do it to the best of your ability. So.
Yeah. Well, great. Well, guys, this has been amazing. I'm so glad I got a chance to meet you. It's funny. I was wondering if, after reading your resume, whether or not I could, the interview would measure up to how impressive you guys are, and it's even more so. I mean, you guys take your achievements in total stride, and it's almost like you most valuable player. What's that most valuable player? And then you just move on to the next thing, and it says a lot about you. So I'm sure you're going to be wildly successful. I'm sure you already are, but I'm sure you'll continue to have great success. And I really appreciate you taking time to talk to me.
No, thank you. This
so
was
much
awesome.
for inviting us on. It's been so much fun. And definitely, I mean, we are younger, but we're not too young for Facebook. So I'm going to have to look at the group.
Yeah,
I definitely want to take a look at it. And see what's up.
Yeah, we'd love to have you part of the group. This is big. So I'll post it later on. And this is going to be real. People are going to really enjoy, hearing from you guys, because you guys made a pretty incredible impact. So
well, thank you so much.
Thank you. This is great. Took a little trip down
you're
memory
welcome.
lane
Yeah. Well, let's keep in touch.
today. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. Bye-bye.
Bye.